"Ooh, what on earth have you got on your feet? Those shoes are so nerdy." At that moment, I really wished the ground would open up and swallow me. I was always getting picked on at school by the trendy kids. I couldn't help it that I loved studying and wanted to get the best grades I possibly could. You see, I wanted to be just like my dad. He's a very famous scientist. In fact, he was the man that invented the machine that can clone animals and even humans. One day, I would be a scientist too, and hopefully just as famous as my dad. Dad and I had a really special relationship because we both loved science. My brothers, Tom and Andrew, were more into sports, and my sister Amy wanted to be a fashion designer. I guess you could say I was Dad's favorite. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any more shocking stories. I walked past the group of kids that had teased me about my shoes and out of the school gate. I saw my sister waiting for me. "What's up, Neil?" she asked as she noticed my sad face. I shrugged my shoulders. "You know, the usual stuff," I said. "Everyone always teases me about the way I look and the clothes I wear." "Don't worry," she said. "I'm gonna help you do something about it. I'm going to give you a complete makeover." When we got home, Amy took me up to her room. "The first thing we're going to do is order you some new clothes." We sat together looking at all the online shops. Eventually, we had a whole new wardrobe chosen. The next thing she did was take me to a fancy men's hairdresser in town. I usually just let my mom cut my hair, so this was a whole new experience for me. I sat in the chair and the hairdresser handed me a bunch of magazines with hundreds of different hairstyles in it. I had no idea what would suit me, so I just told him to choose for me. I hardly recognized myself when I looked in the mirror. I looked like someone out of a boy band. I felt nervous walking into school the next morning. I was worried that people would laugh at me for trying to change my look, that they would still pick on me. But I had nothing to worry about at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite. I got compliments from everyone. Even the most popular kids told me I looked fantastic. Usually at lunchtime, I sat alone in the corner trying to avoid eye contact with everyone else. But now the kids asked me to join them on their table. Suddenly, I had become one of the popular kids. The girls laughed at my jokes and flirted with me. I couldn't believe how much things had changed. The only people who didn't seem happy with my transformation were my own brothers. They didn't like the fact that I was so popular now. Actually, I think they were jealous of me. "Oh, don't we think we're Mr. Popular now?" said Tom when he saw me sitting with a group of girls. I couldn't understand what his problem was. Tom and Andrew both had girlfriends, so that couldn't be the reason. There was only a year between the two of them, and they were really close. They both started dating at the same time, and the four of them went everywhere together. I just hoped that one day they would be happy for me. In the meantime, I was just enjoying being able to go to school and be happy. I was still doing well with my grades, but now that I looked trendy, nobody seemed to care that I was clever too. I felt like there was nothing that could ruin it for me. But I had no idea what was going to happen next. I could sense that something was wrong the minute I walked into my house. Tom was sitting slumped over the kitchen table with his head in his hands. Andrew had his arm around him. "What's the matter, Tom?" I asked. Tom didn't look up or answer me, and Andrew ignored me too. "His girlfriend has dumped him," Amy whispered in my ear. "Oh, Tom, I'm so sorry," I said. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yes, you can stay away from me," shouted Tom. I was shocked at the way he had spoken to me, but I put it down to him being upset. I felt sure that he didn't mean it. That night as I lay in bed, I could hear Tom sobbing in the next room. It broke my heart that he was feeling so sad and there was nothing I could do about it. The next day at school, I saw Tom's now ex-girlfriend. She was talking to a group of her friends. She didn't look sad at all. She was laughing and looking like she didn't have a care in the world. As I got nearer to them, she looked at me. "Hi, Neil," she said, batting her eyelashes. If I didn't know better, I would have thought she was flirting with me. Surely she wouldn't do that, I thought. But it seemed like that was exactly what she was doing, because the next time I saw her, she came over to me and said, "Would you like to go on a date with me, Neil?" Of course I said no. I would never do that to one of my brothers, especially when I knew Tom was hurting so badly. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to ask me. Wait until I let Tom know exactly what kind of girl she was. Once he knew what she had done, I felt sure that he wouldn't be so brokenhearted. But I was wrong. I told Tom that she had asked me out, but instead of him saying what a terrible thing for her to do, he blamed me. "You were probably flirting with her all the time behind my back," he screamed at me. "No, I wasn't," I replied. "How could you even think that I would do something like that?" "Because you just want everyone to like you. I wish you would go back to being my nerdy brother again." Andrew took Tom's side. He didn't believe that I was the innocent party. After that, they didn't include me in anything they did. One Saturday night, I was sitting alone in my room playing on my computer when I heard the front door slam. I looked out of my bedroom window. Tom and Andrew were walking down the street together. They were all dressed up in their best clothes. I wondered where they were going. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. I picked it up and saw it was a message from Amy. "Where are you?" she had written. "At home. Why?" "Aren't you coming to the party?" "What party?" It turned out that one of the kids at school was having a huge birthday party at a fancy hotel in town. Everyone had been invited. My brothers had hidden my invitation and not told me anything about it. It was almost midnight when I heard them come home. They were laughing as they walked up the street to our house. I wanted to confront them, but I knew it would only make things worse. The best thing I could do was to pretend I wasn't bothered. Anyway, I had my own little secret too. I had started dating one of the prettiest girls in school. Her name was Lucy. She was in the same year as me. The first time I saw her, I fell in love. She had big blue eyes and long blonde curly hair. She was so cute and really funny too. We had been on a couple of dates already. I really wanted to ask her to be my girlfriend. I was meeting her Friday night. We were going to the movies and then for a pizza, so I decided that I would ask her then. Friday night came and I went into town. I felt really nervous. I really hoped that she would want to be exclusive with me. I stood outside the cinema. 10 minutes went by and she was nowhere to be seen. I kept on looking up and down the street, but there was no sign of her. I wondered where on earth she could be. Another 10 minutes went by and then another. Finally, I realized that she wasn't going to come. I felt so disappointed. I'd been looking forward to our date all week. When I got home, I called her, but she didn't answer her phone. The next morning, I tried to call her again, but she still didn't answer. I began to worry that something might have happened to her. I decided I would go to her house. When I got there, her brother answered the door. "Is Lucy here?" I asked him. "She doesn't want to see you," he said, "and you'd better stay away from her or you'll be getting trouble from me." "Why?" I asked. We were getting on so well. "She knows all about you and Rachel. Tom and Andrew told her you've been two-timing her." "That's not true. My brothers are just trying to ruin my life because they're jealous of me." But he didn't believe a word I said. He slammed the door in my face. I had no choice but to go back home. When I got there, I went upstairs and straight into my brother's room. "Why did you tell Lucy I've been dating Rachel?" I asked them. "Now she never wants to see me again." They just looked at me and laughed. It seemed like they didn't care about my feelings at all. I went to my room and climbed into bed. I lay there wondering what I could do to get them to like me again, but I couldn't think of anything. Eventually, I dozed off to sleep. I woke up and looked around. Where am I thought. I wasn't in my bedroom. I was sitting on a chair and was tied down with chains. There was just a small window high up on one wall. I couldn't see anything except the sky. I had no idea how I had got there. Suddenly, the door opened. A boy about my age was standing in the doorway. I looked at him in shock. He looked exactly like me. It almost felt as though I was looking in a mirror. We were so alike. The next thing I saw were my two brothers, Tom and Andrew, standing beside the boy. "Help me!" I shouted to them. "Someone has chained me to this chair." But they just laughed at me. "We're not going to help you," they laughed. "We're the ones who put you there." I looked at them in shock. "Why would you do something like that? And who is he?" I said, pointing at the boy. That's when they revealed exactly what they had done. They told me that I had ruined their lives and they hated me for it. So they had gone into Dad's laboratory and made a clone of me. But they had made the clone so he would be nerdy, not popular like me. "We kidnapped you and brought you here so you're out of our way," Andrew said. "We are going to replace you with the clone," said Tom. "You can't do that," I cried. "You can't leave me here." But they just walked out of the room, leaving me with the clone. There was nothing I could do. I knew that it was hopeless. I was going to be stuck in that room for the rest of my life. I stared at the clone for some time, and the clone stared back at me. It was crazy seeing the exact version of myself. He was dressed up, so he was a more nerdy version of me, like how I had looked before. I felt helpless. There was nothing I could do. But then the clone did something I wasn't expecting. He came over and started undoing the locks on my chains. "Come on, quick," he said. "I'm going to help you escape." I had no idea what we were going to do next, but I just followed the clone as he ran down the street. Eventually, we came to a park and sat on a bench. "We don't have much time," he said. "We need to come up with a plan, quickly." We sat together and thought about what we should do. Then it came to me. I would go back to my family and pretend that I was the clone. The clone was happy with my decision. He didn't want to be a nerd. He wanted to be a popular kid. We agreed that the clone would leave and explore the world. "I think I might go check out the Bahamas," he said. I smiled and wished him good luck. We waved goodbye and I set off back to my house. When I got there, Tom and Andrew were in the lounge watching a movie. "Do you want to watch the movie with us, Neil?" they asked, believing I was the clone. I was about to say yes, but then I remembered. No thanks, I want to go to my room and do some studying," I told them. Tom and Andrew smiled at each other. They were happy now that they thought they had got the old Neil back. I went back to wearing the old style and clothes that I used to wear. The kids at school began to tease me a bit, but it's not as bad as it used to be. I am now stuck having to pretend I'm this clone of myself. I don't know what to do. If I tell my parents, they'll no doubt tell my brothers, and then they might do something even worse to me. What should I do? Please help me out and leave your suggestions down in the comments below.
I was sitting on the sofa when I heard a loud knock at the door. I went to see who it was, and I saw a young woman standing there. She looked kind of familiar, but I couldn't place her. "Hello, who are you?" "I'm your sister." I looked at her in shock. What she had said made no sense at all. My sister had died 5 years ago. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, or you might end up with a crazy sibling like me. I was really close to my mom. I couldn't really remember much about my dad. My parents had divorced when my sister and I were about 3 years old. He hadn't had anything to do with us at all. It used to be the three of us, Mom, me, and my sister Holly. That was until the fatal day we lost Holly in a car crash. My life changed forever that day. It seemed like a small part of me died as well. Holly and I were inseparable. We weren't identical in our looks, but we were like two peas in a pod when it came to our characters and the things we liked. I had to stay strong for Mom's sake. She was devastated when Holly died, and I didn't want to add to her misery. I pretended that I was fine, but really, I was lost without Holly. I didn't have many friends. When Holly was alive, we always did everything together. We didn't need anyone else. It was really difficult when I went back to school after Holly's crash. The other kids didn't really know what to say to me, and so I found myself just spending most of my time alone. I felt really lonely, but I didn't know how to reach out to anyone. But one day, that all changed. I met Tom. I had seen him around school, but I'd never really spoken to him. I thought he was cute, but I was far too shy to do anything about it. Anyway, I had been struggling with maths, and my teacher had suggested to Mom that it might be a good idea for me to go to the after-school maths club to get some extra help. I wasn't keen at first, but Mom persuaded me to give it a try. The first person I noticed when I walked into the classroom was Tom. He was sitting at the back of the room, and as I walked in, he looked up and smiled at me. He had a gorgeous smile and kind eyes. "Why don't you sit here?" he asked, pointing at the chair next to him. "Sure, thanks. I'm Tom. Christy." "Hey, Christy." From that moment on, we hit it off. Tom was really nice and went out of his way to explain things to me if I didn't understand them. For the first time in a long time, I was starting to enjoy my life again. Sometimes I felt a bit guilty for having fun, but then I reminded myself that Holly wouldn't want me to be moping around being miserable all the time. Tom was like my guardian angel. If anyone did anything or said anything mean to me, he would jump in and defend me. I was so glad to have him as my friend. One day I was walking home from school, and some mean girls started picking on me. They were laughing at my clothes and calling me names. Tom heard them and came rushing over. "Hey, leave her alone. You girls are just mean bullies." The girls all ran off laughing. "Thank you, Tom. You're such a good friend. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Well, you know, I'd like to be more than friends. I'd like to be your boyfriend." My heart skipped a beat when I heard his words. I'd like that too. Tom grinned from ear to ear. That's settled then. My heart was bursting with joy. When I got home, I ran into the kitchen to find my mom. Tom wants me to be his girlfriend! Mom looked up from what she was doing and smiled at me. That's lovely, Christy. I'm so happy for you. Can I invite him over this weekend so you can meet him properly? Of course, that's a great idea. Why not invite him over to dinner on Saturday night? So, Saturday night came and Tom came over. Mom ordered a pizza for us all and we spent the whole evening watching movies and chilling on the sofa. It was a perfect night. When Tom left to go home, Mom came and sat with me. I'm so happy you found such a nice boy, Christy. Yes, I'm really lucky. Tom is such a good guy. I wish you could find someone nice too, Mom. Mom had been having a hard time recently. My dad had been in touch with her. I wasn't sure exactly what he had said to her, but he made it quite clear that he was trying to get her back. The problem was, even though Mom knew he was only using her because he needed some money, she was finding it very difficult to say no to him. It had taken Mom years to get over losing my dad, and now that Holly was gone, she was really vulnerable. I was determined that I wasn't going to let her take my dad back. He did love her. He just needed a place to stay. You know there's only ever been one man for me, Christy. That's your father. Mom, you know he's a loser. Please, don't take him back. I know. I won't take him back. Even though Mom had said those words, I didn't believe her. I felt sure that somehow Dad would convince her to give him another chance. Well, there was no way I was going to be that soft. I decided I would take matters into my own hands. My opportunity came the following weekend. Mom had told me that Dad was coming over to our house just to talk. I made sure that I was home when he arrived. Mom went into the kitchen to make a cup of tea, and I seized my chance. We don't want you here, Dad. I know you don't love Mom. You're just using her because you need a place to stay. That's not true, Christy. I miss your mom, and I miss you too. If you missed us so much, how come it's taking you this long to come and find us? I know you've just split up with your girlfriend, and that she has kicked you out of her house. Just admit it. You'll only stay here until something better comes along. My dad didn't want to give in, so I had no choice but to threaten him. You either leave this house this minute, or I'm going to call the police. He could see from the determined look on my face that I wasn't kidding around. He picked up his coat and walked out of the house, just before Mom came back from the kitchen. Where's your dad gone? He's left, and he won't be coming back. But a couple of minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I went to open the door expecting it to be my dad, but instead a young woman was standing there. Hello? Who are you? I'm your sister. I stood there staring at her. I couldn't believe it. My dead sister was standing outside my house. Except she wasn't dead. She was well and truly alive. Aren't you going to ask me to come in? I'm sorry. It's just such a shock. Come in. Come in. I took Holly through the lounge. When Mom saw her, she dropped the cup of tea she was holding and the cup smashed on the floor. Holly? How can you be here? Mom jumped up and pulled Holly into her arms. Oh, darling, I missed you so much. I thought you were dead. Mom was so happy to see her, but I wanted an explanation. We were told you died in a car crash 5 years ago. What's been going on? Holly explained to us that it was true she had been in a car crash, but she had survived. Only straight after the crash, she had been kidnapped. She told us that someone was trying to kill her, so she had gone into hiding for 5 years to avoid her attackers. But now she felt it was safe to return. Enough time has gone by. They've stopped looking for me. I'm so happy to have you back. I've missed my twin. Holly moved back in with me and Mom. We didn't hear from Dad ever again, and Mom didn't give him another thought. She had all she needed now that Holly was home with us. I gave Holly a couple of days to settle back in before I introduced her to Tom. Holly, this is my boyfriend Tom. Tom, this is my twin sister Holly. I explained to Tom all about what had really happened to Holly, but he was a bit skeptical. Are you sure we can trust her, Christy? Her story sounds a bit fishy to me. Of course I trust her. She's my sister. Anyway, why would she lie? I'm sorry, it just doesn't really add up. How could you say something like that? She's my sister. I'm guessing I'm just not as gullible as you. I was so annoyed with Tom. I think you better leave, Tom. I'm not gullible for believing my own sister. Maybe we should take a break. We both need a bit of space. Are you finishing with me? I think it's for the best, don't you? Tom left the house without a backwards glance. I was sad to see him go, but I couldn't date him if he didn't trust my family. It took me a while to get back to sleep that night. I couldn't stop thinking about what Tom had said. The next morning when I woke up, I was shocked to find that I wasn't in my room. I blinked my eyes and looked around me. I had no idea where I was. I tried to sit up, but I couldn't move. My arms and legs had been chained to the bed. I began to struggle, but it was no use. I couldn't get out of the chains. Suddenly, the door to the room opened. I saw Holly standing there. Holly, help me! What's going on? But instead of untying me, Holly stood there and told me what she was going to do. I'm going to take over your identity. I will let Mom think that Holly has left again without a word. Then I will pretend to be you. But why? Because I'm tired of living my life on the line. I got involved with some pretty bad people, and now my life is ruined. But your life is perfect. I'm going to steal your life for myself, including Tom. I'm going to tell him that he was right all along about Holly, and that I want to get back with him. You're crazy! You can't keep me locked up forever! Just watch me. I struggled to get out of the chains, but Holly just stood there laughing. I was about to give up when suddenly someone burst through the door, bringing it crashing off its hinges. Tom, how did you know I was here? I suspected she might try something. I used the location feature on your phone and tracked you to here. Holly smacked herself on the head. I can't believe I forgot to turn off the location tracker. But you're not going to ruin my plan. Holly lunged at Tom and tried to knock him to the floor, but he was too quick for her. He dodged out of her way and then spun round and grabbed her hands. He found a piece of rope and tied her hands up. Then he came to untie me. I'm sorry. You were right about Holly. I should never have believed her. Tom undid the chains, tying my hands and feet. Once I was free, I jumped up off the bed. But when I turned to say something to Holly, she was nowhere to be seen. All that was left was the piece of rope lying on the floor. Where's Holly gone now? I don't know, and I don't care. As long as she stays away from you and your mom. I had no idea what I was going to tell Mom. I couldn't let her know the truth. It would break her heart. I decided that the best thing to do would be to tell her that Holly had decided to go away for a while. Mom was a bit upset that Holly hadn't said goodbye. I've only just got her back, and now she's vanished again. I know, but she told me that she just had a really great opportunity. It was all last minute. She asked me to say goodbye to you. I never heard another word from Holly, and nor did Mom. I have no idea where she is or if we will ever see her again. I still can't believe what she was going to do to her own sister. Thank God I've got Tom. He's the only thing that keeps me sane. I'm trying to lead a normal life, but every day I'm scared that she might come back and try to steal my identity from me again. It's not fair. You always get everything you want. I wanted to date Liam. He's been my secret crush for months. I felt terrible. I had no idea that my twin sister Jade had felt this way about Liam, but it was too late. I was dating him now, and I really liked him. But why didn't you tell me? I asked her. If I'd known you liked him, I would never have agreed to be his girlfriend. I hate you, Katie! Jade screamed at me. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any more crazy stories. I'm sorry, Jade, but I really like him, I said. Jade stormed out of the room. It was awful. My twin and I were so close. We were identical twins and had such a close bond. We had never fallen out before, especially not over a boy. If it had been anyone else, I probably would have stopped dating them. But Liam was special. I had never felt this way about a boy before. Jade was just going to have to get used to it. After our argument, Jade made sure she kept out of my way. I tried to talk to her a couple of times, but she just didn't want to know. I didn't tell Liam that Jade had liked him. I didn't want her to feel embarrassed in front of him. I really missed my twin, but at least I had Liam. The more that I saw him, the closer we got. I was starting to fall in love with him. I could even see myself marrying him. Everything would have been perfect if only Jade could have accepted that I was dating Liam and be happy for me. But she definitely wasn't happy. In fact, she made it quite clear that she was very unhappy about it. One time, Liam and I were at a restaurant having dinner. It was supposed to be my treat, But when I took my purse out, it was empty. I'm so sorry, Liam. Honestly, I was going to pay, but I must have forgotten to put my money in my purse, I said. Don't worry about it, Katie, he said. You can pay me another time. I knew that I hadn't forgotten my money. Jade must have taken it out to spoil my night. I didn't tell Liam my suspicions, but this was the final straw. I had enough of Jade's jealousy. When I got home that night, I went to confront her. Why would you steal my money, Jade? I asked her. Can't you just be happy for me? You stole Liam from me and I will never forgive you, she cried. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew one thing. Something was going to have to change. I needed to find a way to make Jade happy. That's when I came up with the plan. I realized that if Jade had a boyfriend of her own, she would stop thinking about Liam. I told Liam about my plan. I need you to bring a friend along to meet Jade. If they hit it off, then we can go on dates together. It will be so much fun, I said. I told Liam to bring his friend to our favorite cafe the next day. Now all I had to do was to convince Jade that she should come. I knew that if I told her I was setting her up on a blind date, then she would never agree to it. So instead, I told her that we had to go for our annual health check at the doctor's. Of course, she had to go with me. We were twins, so we always went together. The next day, we set off, but instead of going straight to the doctor's, I took her to the cafe first. What are we doing here? She asked. It took a little persuading, but eventually she agreed to go inside and get a drink. We sat down and ordered a Coke each. Just as our drinks arrived, Liam and his friend walked in. Hi, girls. Mind if we join you? Asked Liam. The boys sat down with us and Liam introduced his friend. This is Rob. Rob, this is my girlfriend, Katie, and her twin sister, Jade. Rob was really nice, and it wasn't long before Jade was laughing and giggling. It felt really nice to be spending time with my twin again, without us arguing and fighting. After that, we started going on lots of double dates, the four of us. Jade and Rob really hit it off. It was such a relief for me. Jade was really nice to me again. We never mentioned Liam. I thought it was best to just forget about what had been said before. One Saturday evening, the four of us had gone into town. We had been shopping all day when we decided to stop and get a drink. You two go and find a table, I said to Jade and Liam. Rob can help me get the drinks. But on the way back, I noticed that Jade was sitting really close to Liam and gazing into his eyes. Is something going on between them? I thought. I started to feel really suspicious. But as soon as Jade saw Rob, her face lit up in a big smile. Rob, come sit here, she said, pointing to the seat beside her. What took you guys so long? You've been ages. Rob sat down beside her and she leaned her head on his shoulder. I missed you, she whispered to him. I realized that I had no reason to be suspicious of Jade. She was obviously madly in love with Rob. I gave a sigh of relief and relaxed. I had nothing to worry about. It was a couple of weeks later when I saw the advert in the shop window. Ariana Grande was coming to our town. She was performing her worldwide tour and her next stop was here. I looked to see when the tickets were going on sale. I loved Ariana Grande. I had been a fan of hers for years. I just had to get a hold of some tickets. The morning the tickets went on sale, I got up at 6 a.m. The tickets were going on sale at 8 o'clock, but I wanted to make sure I was the first in the queue to buy them. I went down to the ticket office, but what I saw when I got there shocked me. It seemed as though everyone in our town had the same idea as me. It was only 6:30, but the queue was already a mile long. I joined the back of the queue and prayed that I would get a ticket. But when I got to the office, the girl told me they had all been sold. No, I cried. Please, there has to be a way. Surely you must have some extra tickets. But it was no good. I was too late. I had never been so disappointed in my life. When I got home, I called Liam and told him that I couldn't get the tickets. Come on, he said. Don't be sad. It's your birthday tomorrow. At least you have that to look forward to. I cheered up a bit after speaking to Liam. He was right. I still had lots to look forward to. The next morning, Jade and I gave each other our birthday presents. I'm looking forward to tonight. It'll be so much fun. Me too. I can't wait. That evening, we met Liam and Rob at an Italian restaurant. We were waiting for the food to arrive when Rob took out a box and handed it to Jade. Happy birthday. Jade opened the box. Inside was a beautiful necklace. It's lovely. Thank you. Liam handed me an envelope. Happy birthday, Katie. I opened the envelope and gasped in surprise. Inside were 2 tickets for the Ariana Grande concert. I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. I literally had the best boyfriend in the world. I'm so happy for you, Katie, said Jade. You'll have so much fun. The concert was the following Saturday night. I was so excited. The week seemed to drag by, but eventually it was Saturday morning. I spent the whole day getting ready. I wanted everything to be perfect, but for some reason, I felt absolutely exhausted. I'm so sleepy, I told Jade. I think I might just have 5 minutes sleep. I closed my eyes, and a few seconds later, I was fast asleep. When I woke up, I looked at the time. No, I couldn't believe it. It was 8 o'clock Sunday morning. I had missed the concert. How had I slept through the whole day? I picked up my phone and sent Liam a text. I'm so sorry about last night. My phone beeped to say I had a message back. Don't worry about it. There's no need to apologize. I couldn't believe he was being so nice about it. I really thought that he would be angry with me after all the effort he had put in. I decided that I was going to do something really special to make it up to him. I knew he had his eye on a t-shirt in the new trendy shop in town, so I went and bought it for him. The next morning at school, I gave him the t-shirt. Wow, thank you, Katie. I love it. But why did you buy this for me? Because you took it so well that I missed the concert? What are you talking about? We went to the concert. No, we didn't. I fell asleep. We definitely did. I'm telling you, we definitely didn't. So what's this then? Liam asked, pulling out his phone. He showed me a photo. It was a selfie taken at the Ariana Grande concert. My heart sank when I saw it. That's not me. That's Jade, I said. His jaw dropped. Are you telling me that I took Jade to the concert, not you? I nodded at him. But why didn't you come? I felt so sleepy. What do you mean? I thought you were so excited to go. I was. I remember I was getting ready. Jade brought me a cup of tea, and then suddenly I felt so tired. Wait, stop. Did you say Jade gave you a drink? You don't think she could have put a sedative in it, do you? My heart sank. That was obviously what had happened. It was the only explanation. Jade must have planned it all along. I couldn't believe that she would do that to me. I thought we had been getting along so well again. I felt so sad, but that was just the beginning. Katie, I have to tell you something. I looked at Liam. He looked so worried. What is it? You know how we haven't kissed yet? He looked like he was blushing. Yes? Well, we had our first kiss at the concert. I cried out in shock. What? Are you telling me that you kissed my sister? I'm sorry. I thought I was kissing you. I stood there in shock. It felt like my whole world had come crashing down. I can't handle this. Please, Katie, can we sort this out? I'm sorry. This is too much. I ran out of school and straight home. Tears were streaming down my cheeks. I had never felt so miserable in my whole life. When Jade got home, I told her that I knew what she had done. I never want to speak to you again, she snarled. Good, because I don't want to speak to you either. I couldn't face Liam, so I told my mom that I wasn't feeling well. I stayed home from school for the rest of the week. I needed some time to get over Liam. The following Monday, I went back to school. I was feeling pretty nervous about seeing Liam. Then something happened that was very surprising. I didn't know what I was expecting Liam to say when he saw me, but I definitely didn't think he would run up and smother me in kisses. What are you doing? I cried, pushing him away. What? Katie, why are you acting so weird today? Liam said. You can't just come up and kiss me like that. But we made up last week. I thought we were all good again. I had no idea what he was talking about. We haven't made up. I haven't been in school for a week. You've got to be kidding me. Liam slapped himself in the face. I can't believe your sister done it again. Liam told me that he thought he had made up with me, but it turns out that Jade had been pretending to be me. Oh my god. She has tricked me again. I can't believe I've been dating your imposter. When I heard what he said, something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to stand for this a minute longer. I've had enough of her behavior, Liam. She's going to pay for what she has done. You will have to help me to get our revenge, I said. Liam agreed to help, and we discussed our plan. Later, he asked Jade to meet him at the cafeteria at lunchtime. I watched as they sat down at the table together. Then a few seconds later, I went over to them. Jade's face fell when she saw me. I can't believe you've done it again, I screamed at her. You've been pretending to be me all week. What are you talking about? She screamed back. Liam looked at her in surprise. Wait, who are you? He asked her. I'm Katie, she said. No, I'm Katie, I shouted. Liam looked from one of us to the other. Suddenly, Rob appeared, all confused. What's going on here? He asked. Katie's been impersonating me, I said. No, that's what she's been doing to me, Katie cried out. Which one of you is telling the truth? Asked Liam. I am, I cried. I am, she said. Why don't you ask them a question only the real Katie knows the answer to, said Rob. Liam thought for a while, then said, What photo is on my desk? He looked at Jade, but she just smiled at him. She had no idea. It's the photo of your grandma, I said proudly. Liam came over to me and gave me a hug. Rob looked at Jade. I thought you loved me. I never loved you, she barked. I just wanted to get closer to Liam. You need to be happy for your sister. Never! Jade started crying and ran out of the room. I was going to go after her, but Liam put his arm around me. Leave her. Come on, let's go to my house. Reluctantly, I agreed. Jade was probably better on her own. When we got to Liam's house, the TV in the living room was on. I stood there in shock as I listened to the news anchor. He was talking about a recent bank robbery and showing a photo of the suspect the FBI was looking for. The photo was me. I'm now wanted by the FBI. What do you think about that story? Please comment below. And if you want a part 2, get this video to 20,000 likes.
Amber walked into the room. She was just as beautiful as I remembered. I couldn't take my eyes off her. She used to go to the same school as me, but when her dad got a new job, they had moved away. I had always had a big crush on her, but she never seemed to notice me. I was so happy when my parents told me that Amber's family was moving back to our town. Maybe now I would get a chance to date her. But before I go on, make sure you like and subscribe, and hit that notification bell to make sure you don't miss out on any more crazy stories. My parents were throwing a welcome back party for Amber and her family. It should have been the perfect time for me to spend some time with her, but it seemed like every other boy in town had the same idea. Every time I tried to talk to her, another guy would cut in, and they were all showering her with compliments. Amber, you look so cute. Amber, your hair is so nice. How did you get so fit? Fortunately though, Amber didn't seem interested in any of them. She just ignored their compliments. That was until Richard came into the room. He was the son of one of the wealthiest families in our town. He went straight over to Amber and said, Hey, I heard you were back. I've got you a present. Amber's eyes started to light up at his words. She turned around to look at him. He handed her an expensive-looking blue box. Go on then, he said. Open it. Amber opened it and gasped. Oh my gosh, it's gorgeous. Inside the box was a pearl necklace. I could tell just by looking at it that it must have cost a small fortune. Amber and Richard spent the rest of the evening chatting and laughing together. It was obvious that the way to get Amber's attention was to buy her an expensive gift. But I didn't have any money. No way would my parents give me that sort of money either. After everyone went home, I sat in my room thinking about Amber. I knew that I had to find a way to get her an expensive gift. Suddenly, it was like a light bulb had lit up in my head. I knew what I had to do. I didn't need to buy her something expensive. All I had to do was find a way to make a cheap gift look like something very expensive. I remembered how when we were kids, we used to collect stones at the beach and paint them. I went out to the garden to look for the perfect stone. It had to be smooth. I found what I was looking for and took it back to my room. I painted it a shiny black color and put it on a chain. I put it into a nice box with tissue to make it look expensive. After school the next day, I waited at the school gates for Amber to come out. Eventually, I saw her, and luckily, she was alone. Hi, Amber, I said. Oh, hi, She obviously had no idea who I was. It's Toby, I said. My parents threw your family the welcome back party. Oh, yes, thanks. It was great. I've got you a present. I handed Amber the box and she opened it up. Is that what I think it is? She asked. I smiled and nodded. Yes, it's a black diamond. But they're so expensive. Why would you spend so much money on me? Because I think you're amazing. You are so generous. Thank you so much. I knew that this was the perfect time, so I plucked up the courage and asked her if she would like to go on a date with me. To my surprise, she actually said yes. I had never felt happier in my whole life. I couldn't believe that my plan had worked out. We swapped numbers and arranged to go out the following weekend. Friday night came, and I went to meet Amber at the movies. I went to buy the tickets and was just about to go inside when Amber stopped me. Wait, aren't you going to get some drinks and popcorn? She asked. I started panicking inside. I didn't have any more money with me. I had no idea what I was going to do. Sure, I said. You go find the seats and I'll go get something. I waited about 5 minutes and then went inside to find Amber. "Sorry, the popcorn machine is broken and they've sold out of the drinks," I said. Amber looked at me a bit strangely. I thought she was going to say something, but then the movie started and she turned to look at the screen. I let out a sigh of relief. We hadn't been on that many dates when I began to realize that Amber wasn't the one for me. She was constantly asking for things, and if I didn't get her what she wanted, then she went in a big mood and ignored me. She was so materialistic. I really didn't like that about her. It all came to a head when we were in town shopping one day. Amber had seen a new pair of shoes that she wanted. She kept on and on about them. "Oh, Toby, please buy me those shoes. I love them so much." "I'm sorry, Amber," I said. "I'm not getting you the shoes." Her face fell. "If you loved me, you'd buy me the shoes." "Right, that's it. We're over," I screamed. "Are you dumping me?" she asked. I felt a bit mean and didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I just said that it wasn't her, it was me. I told her that I just needed some time on my own. Now that I wasn't dating anyone, I had a lot of time on my hands, a lot of time to think. That's when it came to me. If I had managed to fool Amber with the necklace, maybe I could fool other people too. So that's how my business began. I started making lots of different colored necklaces out of stones and sold them online. It wasn't long before my business took off. Everyone wanted one of my necklaces. I could hardly make them quick enough. I expanded my business and rented a factory and office space. Now I had a whole production team working for me, and the money just came rolling in. I couldn't believe it when I saw the figures on my bank statement. I was a billionaire. I started really living the high life then. I bought the best designer clothes and ate in the most expensive restaurants in town. I also looked after my family. My parents had never had a new car, so imagine their faces when I gave them the keys to a brand new Mercedes. "Toby, that's so thoughtful of you," said my mom. At first, I was happy to keep on giving them the things that they needed, but after a while, it seemed like every time I saw them, they were asking me for something. "We've been thinking about going on a cruise," my dad said as we sat down for dinner. "Do you think you could book it for us, Toby?" I didn't know what to say. I was really getting fed up with my parents. It was me that had made all this money, and they did nothing but take, take, take. "That's it," I shouted. "I've had enough. No more helping you out. It's time you two stood on your own 2 feet. I stormed out of the kitchen and up to my bedroom. But I couldn't get away from them. They kept on knocking at my door, trying to get me to change my mind. So eventually, I knew there was nothing else for it. I would have to move out. I decided I would go and live as far away from them as possible. I bought myself a small island on the Caribbean and moved into a beautiful home there. It was easy to run my business from home because everything I needed to do could be done remotely. For a while, I just kept to myself. I didn't want to be near anyone. But I soon began to get bored with my own company, so one evening I went into town to check out the nightlife. That's when I met Paula. She was out with a group of her friends. I noticed her as soon as they came into the room. She was laughing at something one of her friends had said, and the sound of her voice made my heart sing. When I saw her go to get some drinks, I went and stood next to her. I made some stupid comment about the weather. "Is that your best pickup line?" she asked, laughing. It might not have been the best thing I could have said to her, but she agreed to go out with me, and it wasn't long before we were getting serious. I knew that she was the one for me, and she was the complete opposite of Amber. She didn't care about expensive presents. She loved me for who I was, not what I could give her. So I asked her to marry me, and she said yes. We got married at the little church on the island. It was the perfect day. "Where do you want to go on our honeymoon?" I asked her. "Oh, we don't need a honeymoon," she said. "Living here is like a full-time honeymoon." It was true. Living on our little island was all we needed, but I still wanted to do something special for her. The following morning, I decided I would go into town and book a surprise holiday for her. I told Paula that I needed to go get some groceries and set off in the car. I parked and was just about to set off to the travel agency when I suddenly felt someone grab me from behind. I tried to struggle, but it was useless. There were 2 of them, and I didn't stand a chance. They blindfolded me and put me into a car. "What do you want with me?" I shouted. "Leave me alone. You have to let me go." But they just ignored me. The car drove for about 10 minutes and then turned down a bumpy track. I had no idea where they had taken me to. "If you're thinking of asking for a ransom for me, then you're wasting your time," I said. "My parents don't have any money." The car stopped and they dragged me out. They took me into the building. I could tell by the damp smell that it was probably an abandoned warehouse or something. They took the blindfold off. I couldn't focus for a few seconds, but once I could see properly, I got the shock of my life. "What are you two doing here?" I asked. Standing in front of me was my parents. "Why would you kidnap me?" Then, something even more shocking happened. The door opened and in walked Amber. Now I was really confused. "What's going on here? What do you want from me?" "We know what you have done," my dad said. "We know that you have been scamming everyone with your fake necklaces." My heart sank. "What are you talking about?" I asked. I tried to deny it, but they knew everything. Apparently, Amber had taken her necklace to a jeweler to get it cleaned, and the truth had come out. After that, she had put two and two together and realized that's how I had made so much money. She had gone to my parents, and they had come up with a plan to blackmail me. "You give us $10 million each, or we're going to tell everyone what you have done," Amber said. I had no choice. "Okay, you win," I said. "I'll pay you, but you have to promise you will leave me alone." They all agreed that they would never bother me again, so I paid them the money. I know it's a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, it was worth it. It hurt me that my own parents would do something like this, but I guess this just gave me all the more reason to stay as far away from them as possible. After they got their money, I didn't see them again. I went back to my office to work. I had missed going to work there every day. It was nice to be back. It was about a month later. I was sitting at my desk when I suddenly heard an almighty crash. I jumped up out of my chair and went to see what was going on. But before I had a chance to open my office door, it came crashing in. The room filled with police officers. "Put your hands up! You're under arrest!" one of them screamed. "It's a mistake. I haven't done anything," I said. "It's no mistake. You've been scamming people." I couldn't believe that my parents and Amber had gone back on their word. How could they do this to me? The police took me to the police station. They took me into a room and told me to wait there. It seemed like an eternity before I heard the door open. "There's someone here to see you," said the officer. I looked up. My parents were standing in the doorway. They came into the room and the officer left. "How could you do this to me? You promised you wouldn't tell anyone," I said. "We didn't say anything to anyone," said Mom. "We were as surprised as you when we found out." "Well, if it wasn't you, then it must have been Amber. Let me borrow your telephone." I called Amber and said the same thing to her, but she promised that it hadn't been her that told the police. I knew she wasn't lying. I could tell by her voice. I was so confused. If it wasn't my parents or Amber, who else could it be? The door opened and a policeman came in. "Come with us. You're going to meet with our witness." I followed him to a room at the end of the corridor. He opened the door and I looked in. I couldn't believe my eyes. "Paula," I gasped. "Why did you do this to me?" She looked at me sadly. "I'm sorry, Toby. I just wanted you to lead an honest life. But our life is so good. We have everything." "I know we do, but I couldn't risk the father of my unborn child being locked up in prison." I looked at Paula in shock. "Are you pregnant?" "Yes, I am." Luckily, the police let me off with a warning, as long as I agreed to stop scamming people. It was a small price to pay now that I was going to be a dad.